Hey, Josh.
Hey, Josh.
Yes.
So I will start the broadcast here in 1 minute, and then Shabir should be able to join at 10 on the dot. That's what he said. I'll reorganize here a bit. There we go. Okay. Perfect. And we are about to go live. Shabir is here. Perfect. I'm just going to wait for Shabir to turn on his camera and I'll trigger the broadcast.
All right. You guys see me?
Perfect. Great. So I'll start the broadcast and yeah, we should take it from there. Hello and good morning, everyone. We will begin the webinar here in just a few minutes. We're still seeing some people joining at this time. In the meantime, I just want to ensure that we can hear all of our speakers. So if you guys want to just say a quick hello.
Hello, hi, Devin here.
Hello, everybody. This is Shabir Rapani from AWS.
Hi, this is Ketan from InterMiles.
Thank you. Perfect. So just stay tuned. We'll begin here shortly. We'll begin the presentation in about 1 minute. Just stay tuned. Thank you. Great. So hello and welcome everyone to our webinar, App First and Cloud Native, how InterMiles boosted customer experience with AWS and Infostretch. My name is Rim Badri and I will be your host today. Today's presenters for this webinars are Ketan Fans, VP and Head of Information and Digital Technology at InterMiles, Shabir Rupani, Senior Partner Solutions Architect at AWS, and our very own Devin Samant, Head of Enterprise Data and Cloud Practice at Infostretch. So Ketan is Vice President for Information and Digital Technology at InterMiles, as I mentioned. Over the past 5 years, he has been instrumental in developing Jet Privilege as an independent loyalty company and then transforming it to InterMiles as a new brand. He has experience in web and mobile technologies, including marketing, automation, and cloud. Shabir is a Senior Partner Solutions Architect at AWS. He has a background in application, infrastructure architecture, with a core focus on migration and modernizing applications for the cloud. Currently at AWS, he is focused on helping AWS Partner Network, also known as APN partners, build and develop their AWS practice and innovate on the AWS platform to deliver the best possible outcomes for their customers. And Devin is the Head of Enterprise Data and Cloud Practice at Infostretch. He has more than 2 decades of experience helping enterprises accelerate digital initiatives with quality engineering, IoT solutions, and data analytics. His IT experience spans architecture, design, product, and project management of large volume, high performance cloud SaaS solutions for advanced analytics, decision management frameworks, and enterprise applications. And before we begin, let me just review some housekeeping items here. First, this webcast is being recorded and will be distributed to you via email. This will allow you to share it with your internal teams or watch it again later. Second, your line is currently muted. Third, please feel free to submit any questions you have during the call. You can either use the chat function at the bottom of your screen or the Q&A function. We will make sure to answer all your questions towards the end of the presentation. We will do our best to keep this webinar to the time allotment. And at this time, I'll just turn it over to Devin so he can walk you through the agenda.
Thank you. Thanks, Rim, for that introduction. Today, we are here to discover our journey with InterMiles to modernize their customer experience and customer engagement platform using AWS Cloud. That is what we will be covering today. To begin with, we'll introduce 3 organizations, InterMiles, how it has brought value to its customers, followed by our journey on app modernization and how we use AWS Cloud more effectively to bring that customer experience that InterMiles business was looking for. We will also visit a well-architected review program that we ran for InterMiles and how we could enhance its ability for operational efficiency, reliability, and the cost effectiveness. Right. So those are the certain topics that we will visit today. Now, I hope that these experiences can help you in your journey in digital initiatives. With further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Ketan to introduce InterMiles at this stage, and then we will take it from there. So Ketan, over to you.
Thanks, Devin, and thanks Infostretch for hosting this webinar. So before I talk more about InterMiles and what we do, maybe best to explain it via video for those who are new to the brand, and then I'll continue from there on.
Welcome to InterMiles, a one-of-its-kind and the most rewarding travel and lifestyle program. InterMiles enables invaluable experiences for our rapidly growing community of members by offering them completely free vacations, amazing experiences, as well as daily use products in exchange for their InterMiles. Earning InterMiles is extremely easy and simple. Earn InterMiles when you book a flight or a hotel stay. No matter where you're going, just head to intermiles.com. Also earn InterMiles when you shop, eat out, fill up fuel, or purchase from any of our partners. You can also multiply your InterMiles earnings by using our co-brand cards for your daily spends. See your InterMiles add up every day, no matter what you do. Yes, it's that simple. earning InterMiles across all our partners also enables you to move up our membership tiers faster. With every tier upgrade, the benefits get better, opening up a world of privileges like lounge access, excess baggage allowance, complimentary seat select, in-flight meals, and much more. So if you believe, like we do, that every experience must count towards an enriching and rewarding life, come join our community of members. Become an InterMiler today. Sign up now.
All right. So, InterMiles is a 2-year-old brand, but with a 25-year-old legacy. It was earlier known as Jet Privilege in India as a frequent flyer program for one of the largest airlines in India. And in the last couple of years, we pivoted ourselves from being a airline-centric loyalty program to more of a everyday travel and commerce platform for our members. And largely the brand is offering 3 sets of services and products to our customers. One is centered around travel, which is about booking your flights, booking your hotels, cabs, etc., and then earning InterMiles as a loyalty currency on every transaction that you do. The second is on the lifestyle side, and here we work with a lot of e-com partners like of Amazons and Flipkart, or its dining partners, shopping partners, vouchers, etc. And these are the intention here is to be present in as many digital touch points of our members so that every digital interaction that they do, whether it is flying, shopping, dining, we make it rewarding by giving them opportunity to earn InterMiles as a loyalty currency. And the third key pillar in our business is payments, where we work with some of the largest banks in India, offering co-branded credit cards and debit cards, so that you are able to accelerate your loyalty earnings, points earning using those credit cards. And of course, the entire value proposition to the customer is that you collect these points and then redeem it for a free flight or a hotel. Over the last few years, we've significantly grown from where we were about 3 million some years ago to 10 million plus members as we speak now. We've partnered with some of the largest brands to create this ecosystem of products and partnerships to deliver some of the memorable experiences to our partners. And in doing so, almost 33 billion miles were issued last year to our members, and they continue to use this miles for buying either smaller rewards or accumulate it for some much more larger experiences, like let's say a free flight or a free holiday that they would want to collect. That's been our growth journey, and as we started doing on this growth journey, we wanted to ensure that we have 2 key pillars uh, for our foundation solid. One, we have a strong, robust backend platform that helps us to grow without being afraid or thinking about scale, about availability, about challenges, but keep us focused more on our uh, use cases and building new features for our members. And that's when we partnered with AWS. And then the second piece was, how do I build really nice experiences at the touch point on our digital side, which is our web and mobile platform, and make the entire journey of earning and redeeming InterMiles across a plethora of products as seamless as possible. And that's where we partnered with Infostretch. And lucky to have both of you guys, Shabir and Devin, on this call today to just share the experiences of this wonderful journey.
Thank you, Ketan. Thanks for those words. As Ketan mentioned, right, we have been partnering with various clients. Just little bit about Infostretch. Infostretch is a digital engineering services company backed by Goldman Sachs and Everstone for more than a year now. We have offices in US East, US West, US Midwest, then presence in UK, and four locations in India. About 1,800 of our Infoniers, as we call them, are working with partners like Shabir and Ketan to bring that digital experience to our customers. Our journey with AWS is about 4+ years old, and we have more than 400 certified professionals who are working on AWS workloads and migration projects. We have attained various the service delivery accreditations from AWS, especially in Lambda, API, Gateway, or DynamoDB. These are some of our strong points. We have been working with Shabir on various different initiatives when it comes to AWS run initiatives like the well-architected framework reviews. That's another place where we work very closely with AWS. And today we are going to share some of our experience specifically with InterMiles and how we could help InterMiles on those areas working with AWS. Shabir, do you want to speak a couple of words on this?
Yeah, absolutely. So Infostretch is, is partnering with AWS, and they are collaborating with us to get a lot of these competency and differentiation badging. These are, basically certifying that Infostretch has that capability or that expertise in those areas. So, and these are very, at a very high bar. So definitely things that, differentiate Infostretch, showing their competencies. So I've been, enjoying my experience working with Infostretch, and I look forward to working with you guys further.
Likewise, thank you, Shabir. A little bit about our relationship with InterMiles itself, and as Ketan mentioned, right, we started our journey with InterMiles about 3.5 years back in its previous rendition of Jet Privilege, and then continued with the new branding of what InterMiles, and this is a long journey. We are various touch points, web application implementation, mobile, DevOps, test automation, and most predominantly cloud migrations, and so on and so forth. Just wanted to give mic to Ketan from here, right? If Ketan, I think I've already mentioned about how he has leveraged this partnership in his application journey. So Ketan, if you want to speak a couple of words, and then we'll get into the application ecosystem itself.
Yeah, sure. And for InterMiles, the challenge is that we have multiple product lines. Each one of them itself is a very unique funnel with its own experience, convergence, etc. And therefore, how do I amalgamate so many different travel, lifestyle, commerce, finance related products into a single app, and yet have some modularization in play from a deployment perspective, from an architecture perspective, from a scalability perspective. Those were some of the key things that over the last year or so, we worked really closely with Infostretch to start strengthening that, and take it ahead from there.
So to begin with, we will visit try to understand the ecosystem itself, the InterMiles app ecosystem, various touch points. So that will help us put our modernization journey in perspective. So I'm going to invite Ketan here to just give a little bit tour of this ecosystem. He's the the core of this whole thing. So he can talk about it a little more passionately than me. So Ketan, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Devin. Yeah, so continuing from where we left is we have a set of about 8 to 9 product funnels that we try to consolidate. On top of that, for loyalty and especially during the times of COVID, driving engagement on the mobile app was one of the key factors for us. Given travel was closed, spends were low. And from there on, if you see on the bottom left of your screen, InterMiles every day as a core capability, whether it's earning miles for the steps you take or earning miles for staying at home during a lockdown or just earning miles and points for playing games and quizzes became a core functionality that drove the daily active users on the ecosystem. Uh, Further, the entire loyalty piece is very core to us, which is not just about earning points. We have a very strong tiers and recognition program, which kind of goes from a gold, silver, platinum levels, and members are able to have significant amount of benefits that they can utilize uh, by being a more elite member. So this really meant transforming the left-hand side to a right-hand side, a more technical architecture, building microservices, which are scalable, ability to quickly deploy and experiment with new use cases like the intermiles every day and the gamification that I mentioned. And third, and most importantly, being able to scale up and down basis the demand. We've traditionally seen in the last 12 months, and I'm sure AWS has seen this across all their clients. With the lockdown coming in, the transactions come down. You want to control the cost. The moment we see some lockdowns open up, we see an increase in traffic. You'd want to scale up again, and then that's now become just a new norm. So this ecosystem, from a scalability perspective, from experimentation perspective, and microservices to deliver smaller, tangible, controlled features became critical for the architecture that we designed. And that's how we will now look at some of the way how Infostretch and AWS jointly worked with us to deliver these experiences.
Thank you, Kevin. So with that understanding, let's try to open up the covers and start looking at what the problem on hand was and how we would like to actually approach on this modernization. If you focus on the right hand side, the stack, the mobile stack, it was always, it was designed as a app first, cloud native kind of an environment, completely hosted on AWS, with microservices in place, with an authentication layer in place, authorization happening separately. All those things were in place. We were using Aurora with MySQL engine as our transactional data store, with Redis cache or Elastic cache as our transient data store. So from the mobile perspective, it was well designed, well organized machine as we were approaching. But if you look at the left hand side, we were managing a separate stack, altogether a separate stack when it came to the web application, right? Of course, it was a more of a service-oriented architecture. I won't trivialize it. It was a service layer architecture, but when it comes to deployment, it was still a monolith. There are a lot of challenges when it came from the deployment efficiency perspective. There was a lot of duplication of efforts that were going in, because business wanted the feature parity across the platforms, whether it is a mobile platform or the web platform. And even the stack carried a few, I won't say legacy, but the database choices that we had. For example, on the website, we were using Microsoft SQL Server, so there was some licensing cost also involved. So with all those things, with two stack management, the application modernization of the web stack was imminent. And what you're going to learn now is really that entire journey that we took about moving the left hand side and merging that into having a single backend platform that can power both mobile applications as well as web application, or any third party service API layer interaction that we would like to achieve. So there are multiple phases that we went through. The first thing is identification of how many of the services that can be reused from the mobile platform itself. So that was one exercise. Since as I mentioned, there was service parity, we could achieve a lot of that overlap in first place. When it came to the web APIs themselves, they need to be migrated. So we could create the right decompositions. We could move them on a more containerized microservices hosted on ECS, right? So that was what we did first. That is a AWS, Elastic Container Service. So that's one thing that we did. The next thing was our front end itself. The front end, the original front end was built on jQuery React combination. We took a little bit more modern approach when we came to this merge platform, or the modern platform, I would call it, where we are using React and Next.js. And I'll talk a little bit more on now why Next.js and why we made those choices. That choice was made with a well thought of reasons. When it came to data, we moved from Microsoft SQL Server to Amazon Aurora for obvious reasons. Less management, more serverless. The database management became extremely easy. This journey was very interesting. We used the schema conversion tools, the assessment reports, identifying what is what is a low effort, what is a medium effort, what is a large effort transitions or transformations that are needed from the schema perspective, from the data perspective. It was a very well thought of journey. And then the database migration service itself to move the data from the existing data ecosystem to Amazon Aurora ecosystem, where we are using the MySQL as the back end engine, right, behind Aurora. As you know, Aurora supports both Postgres as well as MySQL. We have made a choice of MySQL at this moment. With this, we now have a common platform that is powering both mobile and web with API first as our policy. This is what is depicting the current state. As I mentioned, we have, everything is microservice driven. We have a service orchestration in place. Our web UI also is generated using the server-side generated web pages using Next.js platform. For obvious reasons, performance. We could provide that scaling control on the server side as we need. As Ketan already mentioned, when we need what we need, we can control it better. That is why the server side pages. And from the SEO perspective, right, we get a better coverage, better benefits when it comes to the server side pages, when the pages are generated on server side and delivered to the clients, on especially on the web. So that's the approach that we have taken. And a lot of duplication was avoided at that point of time, and a single platform now can power both mobile as well as the web platform. There are certain use cases here which requires a server to server authentication. We created a MAC3 service, as we call it. It was a service which is for the pre-authenticated workflows, right? That is what we wanted to create, especially for some fraud detection use cases that we needed to have this kind of server-to-server communication. Now, all these things could be served through a single platform rather than having multiple different silos or the stacks that we have to manage. Obviously, there were a lot of financial and operational gains that we achieved out of this. I'll now invite Ketan to discuss a little bit about the financial gains, and then I'll follow that up with the operational gains that we achieved through this. Over to you, Ketan.
Yep. So I think we had when we started with this project for consolidating web and mobile on a common platform, we had done a lot of research to just clearly lay down what will be the business case for this, because it was a humongous effort. The web was built over the last 5-6 years. It was .NET based, app was Java based. How do I move this all together and yet continue to do a monthly release and not a big bang, so that there are incremental gains that we are seeing as we progress through the project? I think there was, while both web and app were both already on AWS, here the larger challenge, unlike other projects of migrating from data center to a cloud, here it was more of consolidating within cloud, right? And therefore the savings were on reducing the number of compute instances, which gave us 25% of savings. Consolidating the databases, one was on Microsoft SQL, one was on MySQL. We just merged it to MySQL side. Network side, a lot of different instances, a lot of different architectures, routings, on the ELB side, different transit gateways, etc. We consolidated all of that on a common API layer. And obviously there was a significant savings just because on the people side, whether it was managing these two disparate AWS ecosystems, or managing the front end and the back end of the application, the moment it all came together, our release cycles became faster. The number of people required to manage uh, the efficiency on AWS optimized, the number of teams on the development and the testing side drastically improved. So these were some of the key outcomes, and we continue to fine tune some of these services as we go ahead. They are all now on ECS. So we are trying to now benchmark the web and app on one ECS, given the load has increased on some of these services, and fine tune them for better performance and cost efficiencies.
Thank you, Ketan. So, of course, Ketan covered most of the financial gains that we achieved. Of course, there were a lot of operational gains, especially when it came to infrastructure, reusability, delivery, and operations. We listed few of them here. Noteworthy, like Microsoft is hosted on the containers, right? A huge improvement. And as Ketan mentioned, right, AWS was always there, but we were using EC2 instances. Right sizing was always a challenge. Now with containers, ECS in place, a much more control on the scalability aspect, right? How we spin our containers, how we manage them, what kind of scaling policies that we put in place. A lot of gains on that area. Reusability, as Kenan also touched upon, is another area of gain from our perspective. The entire access control logic could be consolidated, can be running from one instance or for one container or logic. Delivery, much more improved, like delivery cycles now. We are running as a micro app kind of a philosophy. So every micro app is running its own cycle, a development cycle. It has its own Scrum teams. It has its own repositories. So release cycles are all independent, and they all get consolidated through an operationally or the automation of operations at a CI/CD level, where we can bring together the web application and the mobile application and release it in more efficient manner. So overall, it was a great journey. Of course, I call it a journey. It is never over, right? There are a laundry list of things that we still can improve. Of course, it's going to be a journey. Working with Ketan, we'll take this to the next level, and continue to make gains on these different areas. And a financial outcome, as you can see, will be the final goal, right? On how we can continue to improve our modernization journey. So I'm going to pause here at this moment from our experience on modernization. I'm going to start into the next topic of discussion that I had, which is the well-architected framework review. This is a very interesting topic. Every organization, as you just learned, InterMile is not new for AWS. They have been using AWS and ecosystem in various manner for a while now. But for every organization in their cloud adoption, and especially AWS cloud adoption journey, comes a point where you have to really look at the way you are using your cloud assets, whether those assets are optimally used. Are you using the right choices, right, to get maximum out of cloud, and is the cloud done right? That's what that question that every organization has to ask. And for that, AWS has provided this wonderful framework of well-architected framework that comes really handy. I'm going to invite Shabir to talk a little bit about the well-architected review, the framework itself, and then I will get into how Infostretch conduct these reviews, and how we have helped InterMiles in this particular area as well. So over to you, Shabir, if you can speak a little bit about the well-architected framework itself.
Absolutely. Thank you, Devin. So in this cloud world and in this world of online presence, right, it's more important for businesses and people designing applications to meet the highest standard, right? And this is very important. And with decades of experience running scalable applications at Amazon.com, and then more than a decade of offering cloud services, AWS has published practices that we identified for our customers, which are best practices, right? These are things that we learned on the field and incorporated them into like a white paper, and also we built a tool for which is called the well architected tool, and that tool talks about the guiding principles of application design, and it is based on 5 pillars, as you see on the screen. It's operational excellence, security, reliability, performance efficiency, and cost optimization. So basically, having all these 5 pillars in focus, a partner or a customer is basically asked to review their infrastructure. And AWS emphasizes and encourages our partners to deliver the solutions that are very well architected, right? The partners are trained, and they are basically trained and incentivized to do so, right? Our goal for our partners is to basically build that well architected into their DNA, right? And that way we can bring the highest standard applications for our customers, right? Infostretch has partnered with AWS on the well architected framework review programs. So basically having being part of the program, Infostretch is able to conduct those well-architected reviews for its customers and also provide value and some, mitigations from the findings that you get.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Shabir. I'll jump into how Infostretch, as Shabir mentioned, right? We have certified WAR architects. These architects are directly trained by AWS for a week, 2 weeks of intense program. We conduct this exercise as about 1 to 2 weeks exercise. I have listed here as a 1 week exercise, but depending on your infrastructure, your workloads, it can span up to 2 weeks exercise where our well-architected principal architects, our cloud analysts, the application architects, they are basically collaborating with your teams in this particular week to identify the workload to be reviewed, understanding, talking to the stakeholders, understanding their needs, what the business objectives are, and then working with your teams and our knowledge and our experience, coupled with AWS's tools that are at our disposal. We go over these different findings and present back the assessment in the next week or the following week. That will tell you exactly how many high risk, high severity issues, medium severity issues, and low severity issues are there. When these are they're called issues from the framework perspective, but I always call them as opportunities. These are the opportunities of improvement rather than seeing them as the issues at your infrastructure or your design, really, right? And that's the approach that Infostretch has always taken. That's an opportunity for you to improve your cloud choices and cloud infrastructure to bring those 5 pillars to their maximum potential, right? So that's Infostretch's philosophy. This is how Infostretch get engaged into the WAR framework. We did a similar exercise, I think, last fall, 2020 fall, with InterMiles teams. There were several findings and several opportunities that we could come up with. The most noteworthy was the security part of it, right? The before score, before we went into this, the before score for the CIS score, as they call it, right? For a Center of Internet Security. You must be already aware of that. Score was at 56. There are a lot of opportunities at which we could make the difference, and we did find those or unearth those opportunities, and we worked on mitigation of those opportunities. We used various tools that are available and services that are available on AWS, noteworthy, especially the secret manager or KMS, or the key management service, or security hub, inspector, guard duty. A lot of these things were put in or employed to really gain that coverage that is needed to take the security score to 88%. Not specifically talking about about InterMiles finding itself, but some typical things that we see out there, especially when it comes to the security aspect of that pillar. uh, People are using Docker images without scanning them for vulnerability. That is one area where definitely there is a scope of improvement, or an opportunity to do that. More and more of our applications are using open source softwares. Vulnerability assessment is very important before you deploy these containers out there, right? Creating a egress container, right, or egress controller, right, to making sure your traffic, all your in traffic is following the right policies, I should say, right? That is another part of thing. I still, this is 2021, but I still see a lot of secret kept in clear, or they are as part of code. A lot of those findings are there. Finding them, and creating a right mitigation strategy, creating the secret manager, or employing the secret manager. Those are some important steps in your security journey, right? It is important for you to do that proactively, that rather than reactively. We all know as business owners what it would take for you to, if there is a security breach or anything of that nature happens. So this is what the value that a war review brings to you: a proactive approach towards identifying and mitigating those vulnerabilities. When it came to other pillars, especially reliability, cost optimization, these are some examples that I'm again highlighting here, right, on how we went about identifying those opportunities and mitigating them, right? Various level of engagement, 4 to 6 weeks kind of an engagement that is needed to really address these vulnerabilities, create the right framework for us to address those issues. One thing on a reliability perspective, depending on what your needs are, creating the right plan for disaster recovery. Now every business cannot afford that, or depending on where you are in your business life cycle, or what your business priorities are. A DR, a true DR might not be really is warranted. But when it comes to the infrastructure as a code, so that if something goes bad, how efficient you are to satisfy your RTO and RPO, right? That are agreed with business. That is something is very important. So creating that kind of a right infrastructure as a code using the AWS cloud formation is an important step there as well. When it comes to optimizing your instance selection, right? Whether you're using the right instances for your workload, depending on your time of use, when you're using it, how you're right sizing per se, right? That is where the AWS Cost Explorer can help you a lot, right? Identifying exactly how you should model your instances. Should you go for reserve instances? Is it a worth investment from your perspective? These are the things that sort of can come to table once you start doing these assessments. And the operational excellence, right? That's another part that definitely like deploying and creating your infrastructure in a more efficient manner, right? Creating a GitOps checks and balances, right? How you are going to create that kind of an approval process. These are some definite areas or potential that we see across, not only in with InterMiles, but there are various war reviews that we have done so far that have unearthed these potential opportunities for you to really mitigate. I'll really encourage all of you, right, listeners, if you, in your organization, if you have any opportunity to do that, you should do a well-architected framework review, either by yourself or with AWS partner like ourselves, right? There are different ways we can help you in these areas as well. So with that, I'm just looking at my clock also. I just want to make sure that there is enough time for the interactive. So how can you get that experience that InterMiles had, right? Partnering with Infostretch. There are various ways, right? We can help you sort of assess your application for potential application modernization. Right, that could be a free workload assessment that we can get engaged into. There are various opportunities, by the way, if you are not aware of that, as a partner that are available to us. Some funding opportunities that come from AWS, and more than happy to talk to you regarding that on a one-on-one setup. Or if you have some questions, Shabir is here who can shed some more light on those areas also, right? Those could be, creating some POCs if you want to do it from your optimization perspective or modernization perspective. Or if you want to, even co-fund your efforts toward modernization. There are various ways these funds can be really used in the practice. When it comes to well-architected framework review, we are planning to have what we call immersion day, right, which will involve in Infostretch solution architects as well as AWS solution architects, uh, sitting entire day with all the interested parties, working hand in hand and on a sort of an hands-on experience on how it is done, what are the different tools, how you can use those tools to identify your vulnerabilities, and b, plan about mitigation of those vulnerabilities. If you're interested in any of these things, please get in touch with us at info@infostretch.com. More than happy to work with you as we go through this journey. So that basically concludes what we wanted to share today as three organizations: InterMiles, AWS, and Infostretch. How we partnered together to bring the value, the business value that Ketan and his team was looking at. So if you have any questions, I'll hand it over to Rim back for her to moderate those questions. I think you can post your questions in the chat window, and Rim can then share those with us. Rim, over to you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Devin. So as Devin mentioned, at this time, we would like to get started answering your questions. As he mentioned, you can do that at any time using the chat function at the bottom or the Q&A function, and then we can proceed to answer them. And it seems like we already have a few questions here. One of them seems to be directed for Ketan. And the question says, what were the challenges in consolidating web and app in one environment?
Yeah, I think thanks, and an interesting question. Multiple challenges, but the top two maybe that would come to my head was, we were doing not just consolidation from architecture perspective, but it was largely a migration from .NET to Java, which meant understanding the existing piece of code, reverse engineering it, identifying what out of that is already available and built in the mobile ecosystem, and what is that delta that we need to focus on to be built additionally as microservices using ECS. So that became a key one. We didn't want to over-engineer it. We didn't want to overdo it. And the second was purely the scale that we had, and how do I plan from a release perspective? How do I keep one website live partly on .NET and partly on Java? And how do I do a routing which says, if it is a intermiles.com/help page, send it to the EC2 server. But if at the same time, if it is intermiles.com/blog page, send it to an ECS server, right? One is on Next.js, one is not on Next.js. So how do I manage two independent technology stack live on production at the same time, and then gradually start doing the migration? So these, I think, were the two top challenges: release management and architecting about it, and just being able to reverse engineer the legacy code and transform it to a microservice.
Thank you, Ketan. And it seems like we received a question here that asks, how can you become an AWS partner? So maybe Shabir or Devin, do you want to shed some light on what it means to be an AWS APN partner?
Shabir, do you want to?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so AWS partner. So there are two tracks for AWS partners. You could be a consulting partner, like how Infostretch is helping customers build their applications. And then also you could be a technology partner if you're developing solutions that you want to build on AWS and provide them as offerings, like maybe a SaaS offering or anything around that. You could be a technology partner. So for more details, you could look at that apn.aws.amazon.com. So we can provide you that information from there.
Thank you. And another question here says, do I get my assistance if my well-architected framework review results in HIS findings? And if so, how should I go about it? How can I do it? This might be a better question for Devin. Do you want to take this one?
Yeah, sure. I think I'll take some help from Shabir also here. So yes, there are some incentive that are available. Definitely, if you choose to, if you find certain high severity issues, and if you would like to mitigate them, and if you work with a WOW partner, there are certain credits that are available that as a WOW certified partner we can offer to you. It requires about 25% of your HSS to be addressed by our services, in certain time period. So if you can, if you are interested in doing that, we definitely can bring in that funding or that credits to you, and it comes as a part of credit, so it will apply to your account, that is directly given by AWS to the organization and not to the partner, really, right? So there are a lot of ways you can sort of fund your efforts on mitigating those things. Shabir, do you want to shed a little more light on that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So like Devin mentioned, Infostretch is an AWS well-architected framework review partner. So being in that program and having that experience helping customers, that will make sure that your applications are well architected. And then in doing so, in order to encourage that, like Devin said, we do provide that additional $5,000 credit. Definitely works out for the customer, because you're basic mitigating your high risk issues, specifically in areas of security, cost optimization, operational excellence, and other areas around that, right? So um, definitely encourage you to look into that and engage with Infostretch if needed.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks, Shabir.
And it seems like we have another question here, but this is from the perspective of InterMiles. What are some of the new services tools that you are exploring on AWS to support your digital landscape moving forward?
Yeah, so I think one of the benefit of AWS, and I'll call it a challenge as well, a good challenge to have, and maybe I'll ask then Shabir to throw some light on how we can solve that, is AWS keeps releasing so many new features and exciting uh, services month on month that it's tough to do a catch up on them, right? So we in the last couple of months itself, we've looked at a couple of new services that AWS has launched. One is the fault injection service on chaos engineering side, and we did a couple of POC with our AWS team out here. The second one we are looking is, we already have a strong data lake on AWS, and how do I start using newer AWS data services that we've been launched on data quality, data brew, etc., and really use the EMR studio that you guys have launched. So how do I keep trying to experiment it at smaller scale, build certain use cases, test it out. So that those are some of the 2-3 things that we are definitely looking at. But Shabir, if you guys can put up a well-architected framework for testing out new services, that would be really helpful.
I know. I mean, there's just talking about public releases. There's also emails that I get every day almost. Like I get 4 to 5 launch announcements every day. We launch different services and features within services, and it's definitely like Ketan said, it's hard to keep up. But then that gives you. We're trying hard to make things easier for the customer, and then with cloud you have that pay as you go model, so you can customers can try use the service, see if you like it, and then if you don't, then you just don't have to pay to keep it, right? You just decommission it and you just paid for whatever you use. And a lot of services also have free tier. So you could start using those services, and a lot of times for your experiments, you're literally not paying anything or paying a very small amount.
Right. And actually, if I to add on top of that, right? So the funding programs like POA is another way, right? So we
Correct.
can do some POCs, or we can do some experimentation at our early stages. There are certain initiatives that we are working where we might not be a GA still from the AWS perspective, but we are experimenting on those things. That's the advantage that I get when I work with, especially with Shabir, right? Getting that help that is needed from AWS to experiment those things, creating that right model to give confidence on is this the right choice, especially the fault injection service, right? Since we have been, we have been championing this chaos engineering part for a while now from Infostretch's perspective. We strongly believe that every workload out there on production, especially when it is on cloud, deserves a look, whether you are small or big. What is the experience that you are giving to your customer need to be tested through the chaos engineering experiments, right? As we call them, right? Defining the right blast radius for every experiment, making sure that your users are getting that right experience that your business is looking forward to. And fault injection service that was introduced last year, I guess fall last year, if I'm not wrong. It's gone really miles on that, right? There are other tools that are available out there, the Simian Monkey, that entire family is there, and then the Toxi proxies. But putting all these things together in AWS ecosystem to use it more effectively, that is really important, and we're happy to have that conversation if anybody is interested.
Thank you, Devin. And maybe we have time for two more questions before we wrap up. One of them is, when should I perform a well-architected framework review? And what workloads are ideal candidates for that type of review? Maybe Shabir, do you want to cover that one?
Sure. So, first question, right? When do I perform well architecture review? So, well architected framework review, you basically want to perform it, almost at every stages in your software development lifecycle. You have to think about those principles even when you start designing the architecture for the application. So definitely look into those concepts throughout your application infrastructure lifecycle. However, let's say if you have an application that is running already in AWS and you want to continuously look at, what developments have been made, or what changes have come through since the time you made the last, change. You want to do that, and then once you have those changes, you still do that well architected framework review. So that's why we say that we want to build that well architected in the DNA of our partners and our customers. So it's very important to do that well architected framework review every so often. Typically, we've seen partners and customers run it, let's say, on an annual basis, just to go back and reset, or the findings, and look at how things have changed in the last 1 year.
Thank you, Shabir.
Yep.
And maybe last question to wrap it up while we're on the topic of the well-architected framework review. Devin, how much does the client team need to participate? The underlying question here is, will it take a lot of time away from their teams?
Not really, but it won't be zero. That's what I want to say, right? Yes, because our teams, our solution architects would like to understand your decisions and the rationale behind those decisions better before we comment on that. Tool aids us on making those decisions, but ultimately there will be some efforts or some some time needed from stakeholders, the client stakeholders, to work with our solution architect. We try to keep it minimum about, say, 2 hours a day, kind of a engagement spread across multiple stakeholders, right from infrastructure management or operation management folks and the development folks, depending on what pillar that we are working on. So it's not necessarily, it's a very engaged, initiative from your side, from the client side. Most of the bulk is handled by our solution architects at our end, and we try to keep it as interactive possible.
Great, thank you. So I believe that's
Sorry,
all. Oh, tell me.
maybe, yeah, Shabil, just a quick one for you, maybe on behalf of the audience. You mentioned to be done
Yeah.
on an annual basis. Does the well-architected review framework itself evolve on a quarter and an annual basis as newer and newer services get launched?
Yeah, so what we also add on top of the well-architected framework tool is called lenses. So like there are lenses for, let's say, DevOps or SaaS offerings. We keep evolving from what we learn from experience, right? So there are things that change in the tool, as well as your applications might have evolved in that 1 year, right? The things that were normal to do 1 year ago may not be normal to do in that same way this year. So it just resets your thought process and makes you think about how you can optimize your application based on those pillars better in the for the next sort of next phase of your application.
Well, thanks for that.
Perfect,
Sure.
thank you. So I believe that's all the questions we are able to answer at this time. Many thanks to all our speakers, Ketan, Shabir, and Devin, for joining us today. And thank you everyone that was able to attend. Be sure to check out and subscribe to DTV, our digital transformation channel that brings in industry experts, including InterMiles, actually. Their CEO was recently on there, and we are hoping to bring in AWS soon. So stay tuned. You will receive an email in the next 24 hours with the slides presentation and a link to this webcast, so you can rewatch it later or share it with your teams. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us at info@infostretch.com, or feel free to reach out to our presenters directly. They have their emails on the screen. And if we didn't get a chance to get to your question today, don't hesitate to let us know. We're happy to follow up and schedule a call to discuss. Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Thanks, Rem. And thanks, Ketan and Shabir, for joining us. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you guys. Thanks for having us.
Bye.
Bye. Hey, Rem.